one silver carp can reproduce multiple times a year.
We need to get rid of all of them.
Can you imagine a day when the sound of boats and laughter on East Tennessee's beautiful lakes and rivers is replaced by silence? A day when fishing rods are left untouched and the businesses and livelihoods that depend on our lakes cease to exist. Unfortunately, this nightmare could become a reality if we don't stop invasive silver carp from reaching our waterways. You may be wondering, what is the invasive silver carp? Silver carp are a species of fish native to Asia, which were originally imported for their use in fish farms. They have caused a detrimental impact on the ecosystems of many lakes and rivers throughout the United States. Known for their tendencies to erratically jump out of the water, they make it unsafe for people to enjoy a relaxing day on the lake. In this video, I'm going to share with you the threat invasive silver carp pose to the way of life of East Tennesseans.
My name's Cole Hardy. I am the Aquatic Nuisance Species Coordinator at Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency. Today we were out here with crews from our eastern Tennessee region. We brought them over to our western portion of the state here. We're at the Duck River, real close to Kentucky Lake. And we were getting out and describing for them, showing them some of the sampling methodologies that we use to go out and collect invasive carp. Today we were out here, kind of specifically looking for these silver carp, electrofishing, using several boats at one time and in small areas, and using our dozer trawl. Silver carp, they're one of the 4 species of invasive carp. They are filter feeders. They feed really low down on the food chain, and so they can compete with our native species. They're invasive, so they come in and in large numbers. They also can jump out of the water. You saw some of that today.
Yes, I did.
They can be kind of dangerous, if you're out there running around from spot to spot fishing, or if you're pulling a skier or a tuber or something, and one of these fish jumps out of the water. You don't want that to hit you. We saw a lot of 10 and 12 pound fish out there today. That wouldn't feel very good jumping out of the water and hitting you. If we don't do anything about the problem here, these fish, they're coming in from the Ohio River primarily. That's where really our source is for this population. And without any management actions, they'd be basically allowed to spread unencumbered throughout the Cumberland River, the Tennessee River, moving further and further upstream. And so that's what we're trying to prevent. And you and I, talked a little bit earlier about some of the tools that we're using, these management actions that we're using to prevent these things from moving further upstream, right? We don't want to see them anywhere that they're not already. We'd love to get rid of them where they are. Certainly don't want to see them moving up into East Tennessee. And so those management actions that we have, really there are 2 of them. Commercial fishing right now is a really big one, right? So we work with the commercial fishing industry to incentivize the harvest. We're working on deterrents. You may have heard barriers before. And so, like I said, with these fish moving through the locks, a deterrent or a barrier at one of our locks is a way for us to prevent more fish from coming in. So you kind of couple those 2 actions, the deterrents, preventing more fish from coming in, and then that commercial removal, so harvesting fish where they already exist, can kind of block and tackle these populations almost and take them down. And that's what we're working on.
All right, gotcha. Thank you.
Kentucky Lake was, it's really took a beating because it's lost millions and millions of dollars from the incoming fishermen that were coming. It was a destination place for a guy that fished. He wanted to come to Kentucky Lake in Barkley, and he wanted to fish ledges. Well, all of that money is gone, and it's reflected in the businesses. It's reflected in the restaurants at the lake. It's reflected in all of your
real estate,
your gas stations. I mean, everybody has seen an impact. Lots of businesses have closed.
I saw one example of a marina that probably had a value of $7 to $8 million, and they were trying to sell it, and they couldn't even get $1 million for it now. You have direct impacts economically. When the fish get in numbers enough, they can have several different impacts. One is they jump in, they'll impact recreational use of our waterways by jumping into the air. People don't want to be around a bunch of jumping, slimy, bloody fish.
Yes, sir.
Number one. Number two, they eat enough of the nutrients in our waters to negatively impact our native bait fish. Gizzard shad and threadfin shad are native bait fish here in our waters. That's what our bass and our crappie like to eat, our smallmouth bass, catfish, things like that. When you can deconstruct the entire food web when you have something like Asian carp, who are huge in number, high in density, and they just take it all out and they start it to unravel. The one that's kind of the umbrella over all of it is to the economy, because you're going to impact the value of property on when you have bass fishing tournaments, which bring in lots of money to rural communities, and they don't want to go to an area where there are a bunch of Asian carp that have either impacted the fishery negatively or just have a stigma about them. That's real money that leaves these rural communities where they need it the most. So you have that economic value impact that occurs. So you take those three, and they're pretty significant.
So what can the general public do to help with the problem?
Well, Trace, there are a couple things that the average citizen can do to step in and help. One, if you want to learn more, and I would encourage people that are watching this to go to our website at tnwf.org. Write your legislator, or you can write your congressman. And that can generate support for things like funding for barriers. I told you we have funding for the subsidies for commercial fishermen. We need more funding for commercial fishing, and we need quite a bit of money, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $100 million to build 10 barriers in the Tennessee Valley. And so that public support of our elected officials is really important to helping them understand how important this is. The other thing is that they can actually let their local officials know. If you're from where you're from in Knoxville, you don't ever want to see them.
No.
And there's a whole lot of economic value that can be impacted in East Tennessee. And so the idea is the faster we get the funding for the barriers, and the faster the Corps of Engineers and TVA can help put the barriers up, and the more people we can get fishing for these, and the more markets that we can create to move these fish to market to create economic value for them, that will put enough pressure to actually move the numbers down to where they're manageable.
I don't know of anything in my lifetime, in all the years I've fished, that I've seen that it's more detrimental to our sport than those things. They're number one.
It's time to learn the truth about the silver carp invasion and take steps to protect our beloved lakes before it's too late.
Went up on the hill about 12 o'clock, reached right back and got me a pole. Went to the hard one, got me a hook, placed that line right on that hook. Says you've been fishing all the time, I'm a going fishing too. I bet your life, your loving wife, catch more fish in you. Any fish bite, got good bait, here's a little something I would like to lay. Any fish bite, got good bait, I'm a going fishing, yes I'm going fishing, I'm a going fishing too.